Welcome. This is Heather Vickery, and you've tuned in to the Brave Files podcast. I'm so very glad to have you here today. And before I tell you what you can expect in this week's episode, I want to ask you, are you ready to understand your fear, to leverage your fear into intentional bravery? If you are, come and hang out with us in our private Facebook community, Brave on Purpose. This is a community of people from all across the globe who are looking to level up personally and professionally, because we all know that when we choose bravely on purpose, we choose bigger, we win bigger, and it's contagious. If this excites you, then just follow the link in the show notes or go into Facebook and search Brave on Purpose and come and join us. All right, friends, today I'm chatting with bestselling author Dr. Valerie Rein, who believes that discounted women are not defective, but instead, we're experiencing what she calls Patriarchy Stress Disorder. Dr. Valerie explains in the conversation what PSD is, how one can move through it, and rather than just suffering through life, she teaches you how to ask, how good can it get? And to take action on that growth. But don't worry, this conversation is not just for women. Patriarchy stress disorder affects everyone, regardless of gender, because the hypermasculinity we're experiencing on a global level is detrimental and dangerous to everyone. In this conversation, Dr. Valerie and I talk about how trauma is inherited and passed down from generation to generation. In fact, trauma is traceable. We can find it in roots in both our ancestors and in our empathic response to trauma that we see others experiencing. Dr. Valerie and I also talk about ways to reframe trauma that will help you move through it with mind and body tools. And probably most importantly, we talk about the power and importance of community when it comes to change and growth. We need each other to heal properly and to leave a better world for our children and grandchildren. This is an important conversation and one that is absolutely going to create mind-blowing shifts and new perspectives for you. So get cozy, because here we go.
Discovery, grace, freedom.
This is Heather Vickery, and you're listening to The Brave Files, stories from people living courageously. When we choose bravely in big and small ways, it powerfully elevates our lives. I hope these stories connect with you and encourage you to embrace bravery in every possible way, day after day. Together, we can build a movement of courageous living that enriches both our lives and our communities. And if you enjoy the show, I ask you to please share it with others. Maybe think of someone who you want to choose bravely right alongside you. Thanks for tuning in. Now here's the show. Hey, everybody. This is Heather Vickery. Welcome to this week's episode of the Brave Files podcast. I am so excited to introduce all of you to Dr. Valerie Rein. Dr. Valerie and I met through an event hosted by Allie Brown. It was iconic. Actually, it was iconic, but that was literally the name of the conference as well. And I was instantly impressed with the work that Dr. Valerie's doing. She's helping women ditch the game of survival by asking, how much can I bear? And instead, she's asking, how good can it get? She's helping them master the game of thriving. In her new best-selling book, Patriarchy Stress Disorder, The Invisible Inner Barrier to Women's Happiness and Fulfillment, is a fantastic read. I have a copy right in my hands, and it's really helping women redefine trauma and how to move through it. Valerie, welcome to the Brave Files.
Thank you so much for having me, Heather. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this. I felt very special. I got an early release copy of your book, and it immediately hit best-selling list. What did that feel like?
It felt It's like when you give birth and you forget about how painful that was. It's all about the bliss of having the baby and then getting that baby adored because that's what we want, right? Because the baby is so adorable. But in the case of the book, that's where the metaphor breaks a little. In the case of the book, you don't just want people to adore the cover. You want people to get into the work. And what's between those covers is highly catalytic and highly disruptive to the status quo. I should have released a disclaimer to that effect that your life will never be the same. This is the end of your life as you know it. This is the red pill, blue pill moment. And if you're not ready for that defining moment, put the book down. But hearing from women, reading the reviews on Amazon, for a while, I couldn't even approach that. And I actually started reading them on my own podcast, Her Success Radio, to help the audience kind of witness it and digest it with me because the stories are so big. It is powerful. And it's such a collective thing that we tapped into. The book was co-birthed with many women whose stories I've been privy to receive as I was researching this topic and also having been a therapist for many years. So it felt very intimate. It felt very important. And knowing that the book is landing in a lot of women's hands, it couldn't be more gratifying. And I know that that's now the movement. The book is out and the movement is out in women's hands. It takes the village to raise that child, right?
It sure does. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. You captured me very early on in the book with your new definition of trauma. You say that trauma is any experience that makes you feel unsafe in your fullest authentic expression and leads to developing trauma adaptations to keep you safe. So the stories we make up, the coping mechanisms we make up so that we can thrive it. And obviously women and microaggression towards women, we actually did a great interview where we talked to a guy who equated microaggressions to women to being kicked in the nuts over and over again. So I there is that. But as somebody who's a member of the LGBTQ community, we do that there as well. And I so value that redefinition of trauma. It doesn't have to be this traditional, obvious abuse.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for picking up on that. And to me, it was very confusing because I have 2 graduate degrees in psychology, and that's a lot of years of school. And then there was no time spent on actually speaking to people's experience with those traumas, microaggressions that women experience, LGBTQ community experiences. Racism is huge.
Yeah, huge.
There are so many layers of trauma. And then being human in the world is a pokey place. We don't make it to adulthood without scars, and all these scars need to be acknowledged as traumatic. And to me, that was the most empowering thing, uncovering my own trauma, because I didn't know I had trauma, and because I didn't think I had trauma, I was chasing all the wrong things. I was going to therapy week after week as a good psychologist. And I was still anxious, and I was still having depression, and none of what my therapists were talking to me was making a difference in how I was feeling. That wasn't until I discovered that trauma lives in the body and we can release it from the body using mind-body tools that I gained my freedom.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for just a moment. You actually thought you were having a stroke. Your body so rejected what you were denying that you thought you were having a stroke.
Yes.
Can you talk about that for a minute?
I was living my dream life. I was happily married, so I thought, and had a pretty home and a wonderful daughter, and I had a full-time practice, and I had a coaching business too. So I thought I was really happy and living my dream life until one day I was on the phone with a client and I noticed that I was only smiling with the right side of my face and the left side went numb. And so did the rest of the left side of my body. So I ended up in the ER with symptoms of a stroke. And after they scanned me up and down, the verdict was it wasn't a stroke, it was quote unquote just stress. And that was really surprising for me because I didn't feel stressed. I was just living my life.
And you
Stress
were busy.
was my normal. Yeah, it was my normal. And that's what I see with women. And I uncovered that a lot while working on the book, looking at it through the lens of patriarchy stress disorder, of how much stress has become the norm for high achieving women. We don't even realize that we're stressed until something breaks, until our bodies really sound that alarm. We don't even know that we're not even in our bodies. We're disconnected and we do not realize that. So this book or the journey of writing the book was through my own awakening, and it wasn't pretty. It was a painful one, realizing, well, maybe I'm not all that happy and fulfilled as I look on paper. Maybe stress is my security blanket. What's underneath? And it's been an awakening journey to write it and speak to so many women who, lo and behold, whose experiences are very similar to mine.
Yeah, the back of the book does a really nice job of speaking to those women. Despite checking off the boxes of worldly accomplishments, most high-achieving women are secretly dissatisfied. They feel stuck in lives that look perfect on the outside, yet on the inside they're unfulfilled, plagued by the nagging feeling that there's got to be more and feeling guilty and ungrateful for feeling trapped in lives that are so good. I do hear that a lot. And it is nuanced and it is fascinating because this is, I will call it out exactly as I see it. This is a privileged white woman's situation.
Yes. Thank you for saying that. It is what it is, right?
It's
a very first world problem.
It is. And there are so many preceding problems for women of color. So it does speak to a very specific niche, but that doesn't discredit its importance and its value. I'm what folks would say is I pass as straight all the time. I don't quote unquote look like a lesbian, which we know doesn't mean anything because what does a lesbian look like? But so, I feel this and I certainly felt it before I came out. Why everything is so perfect. Why is my life so messed up? Like, why do I feel so bad? My mom actually said that to me at one point. Everything is perfect for you. What in the world do you have to be upset about? Right? And of course, she's from that generation. So tell us, do me a favor and share with the listeners, what is patriarchy stress disorder?
It is collective and inherited trauma of oppression that forms this invisible inner barrier to women's happiness and fulfillment. What I mean by inherited trauma, we have research now that shows that traumatic experiences are genetically transmitted. I have this study cited in the book that I found a most elegant way to describe how PSD shows up in women. In the study, they introduced the smell of cherry blossoms to mice while simultaneously zapping their feet with mild electric shocks. Then the mice were bred, and their children and their grandchildren, when exposed to the smell of cherry blossoms, showed a strong fear and anxiety reaction.
That's crazy and so fascinating.
Yeah. So that's what PSD is. PSD is women fearing the smell of cherry blossoms. What it is? It's everything that we desire that historically has been a punishable offense. To love who we love, we never do that could never do that. Women didn't even have ownership of our own bodies.
Yeah.
Even in this day and age, it's still up for debate.
Yeah,
right?
yes.
Do we have rights?
Sadly, it is.
To our own bodies. Well, let's see what the men have to say about that. And apart from the obvious offenses historically that come to mind, such as witch burnings,
Right.
there have been some that are pretty recent, such as women used to be locked up in asylums for nothing, basically. And I've heard stories like this from clients whose parents went through this, which is like, it sounds crazy. It sounds like it belongs in the history books long ago, but it was in the 50s and 60s in the US when, let's say, the father had an affair, had a girlfriend. The mother didn't agree with that. And so he locked her up in an asylum, and she returned home after a while in a wheelchair and drooling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Terrible things that we've experienced through the trauma of oppression. And just things like, well, you can't earn your own money. You can't be visible or you'll be raped. You can't right? It really, there is so much trauma that we carry in our system that we've inherited and we've experienced. And women around the world, we don't exist in isolation. So when we tune in the news and we hear the crimes against women, and in some countries and communities, it's much more pressing and prevalent than, let's say, privileged white women, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, this is in existence for all women everywhere. It's just not every woman's first point of trauma.
But we are all interconnected. And that's what I mean by collective trauma.
Yeah.
Every time we hear of a crime perpetrated against a woman, our nervous system reacts, oh, wait, this can happen to me too. This is also in our collective DNA. So it gets activated and it sends the signal throughout our system. The world is not a safe place. I'm not safe. It's subconscious, of course. We don't think that way. But every time, the way it manifests, every time we step up to be visible, to be in our power, to earn a lot of money, to love who we love, to want what we want, our subconscious signals unsafe, unsafe, unsafe. And then we have all these successful women with adrenal fatigue, with chronic health conditions, autoimmune, because that's how unsafety manifests. It either manifests through thoughts and stories that are along the lines of the upper limit problem, the imposter syndrome, the inner critic, everything that tries to hold us back, to keep us safe. Or if that fails, then the body takes the toll, like it did in my case, right? My thoughts were not stopping me, but my body slammed on the brakes. And in the realm of action as well, women are either in action and their nervous systems are constantly in fight or flight response, or the nervous system goes into freeze, and then a woman finds herself unable to act on something that she really, really wants. And so that's how that plays out.
Yeah. I love that. And that's really, that last point is really where the work I do as a coach meets with people. How do we leverage your fear into intentional bravery, right? You're going to have it. And it's there as you're identifying, passed down generation to generation, because at some point it literally saved our lives. And now it's gone from saving our lives to stopping our lives because we can't function without that code of conduct.
Yeah.
I had this really fascinating conversation with my ex-husband recently. We have 4 daughters. And, I don't want my oldest, who's a freshman in high school, a teenager, to walk alone at night on the streets, to go from one place to the other. And he said, you're putting your own fears on her. You're making her fear those things, which may be true, except I don't remember a single day in his life that he was a woman in America and had to literally be afraid to walk down the street at night. And yet how much of it maybe she doesn't anymore. I don't know. Sadly, I think she does. But I don't want to put undue fears on my children, and I don't want them building up inside me and stopping me. So what do you recommend? Like, where do people start? Where do women start in quieting this or changing the genetic code and redefining that they have value, that they have worth and place? And the patriarchy is still alive and kicking and highly functioning all over the world, but very strongly in the United States, where it's currently kicking our ass day after day. What do we do?
Yeah. Yeah. It's not even like post-traumatic stress disorder where the trauma already happened.
It's current.
Well, it's current. We're getting triggered all the time. And so one of the first things is, first of all, awareness. Knowing that 90%, if not everything that you experience that you're trying to fix under the rubric of what's wrong with me, anxiety, or trouble sleeping, unwanted weight gain or weight loss, or everything that's stopping you from having the life you desire, it's not you. It's not you. It's that trauma that lives deep inside of us. So that is the first step. I actually have a 5-step system that I describe in the book. So the first one is waking up in prison. I use the metaphor of the invisible in a prison for this trauma. And then the second step would be identifying exactly what's holding us back, because it's no longer the trauma. It's no longer those experiences. It is the trauma adaptations. What are those? The mechanisms in our mind, body, and actions that are keeping us safe. By keeping us locked up. And once we really list them out, all the thoughts, all the stories, all the expressions in the body, all the actions, distractions, addictions, etc., then we know. But we're not going to fight them. And this is where my work really diverges from a lot of stuff in self-help, which can be detrimental. Because these trauma adaptations are literally life-saving. They're trying to keep us safe. So if we try to override them, we're going against our biology. That's not a good idea. So in the third step, we help them evolve from our prison guards, as I call them, to our bodyguards. The way we do it is by giving our nervous system a different experience. The experience of safety, and literally rewiring the nervous system through mind-body tools that I give some tools in the book, and there are supplemental materials on the website. And there is actually one tool that will make total sense even without having read the book. It's at drvalerie.com/repower. And that's a repower tool that helps you get into your body anytime, at any moment when you're feeling triggered, you're feeling unsafe, or just to keep on cultivating that feeling of safety, right? And then the remaining 2 steps have to do with, the fourth step is digging the tunnel to freedom, where we go through healing the layers of trauma. And the 5th step, I call it savoring freedom, which is very interesting because it's not the happily ever after where we arrive and that's it. Not that it even exists anywhere.
No, it's not. Yeah.
Truthfully. It's just that it came without instructions before. And I provide instructions for what to do when you actually gain freedom, because there's that moment of, I'm out of jail, there are no more rules. It's like, there are no more rules. And then there's horror, there are no more rules. What do I do? We need to create basically our body energetically and physically is not accustomed to having it all, not accustomed to having lots of money, lots of love and adoration in our lives, lots of intimacy, lots of self-acceptance and self-love. We're not built for that. Well, maybe we were originally built for that, but the trauma of patriarchy really drove it out of our system, that capacity to hold the good and run those juices through our channels. And so we take the approach of rebuilding our channels to run the juice of how good can it get, so it can keep getting better and better. It's like when we have a delicious feast set out in front of us, but we literally don't have the digestive enzymes to eat it, right? We can only have like a few gluten-free crumbs.
Oh man, that's rough.
So that's life right now. We have the opportunity. We have the opportunity. Yes, patriarchy is alive and kicking, but we have more opportunity than we've ever had before. And arguably, we can do whatever we want. Arguably, right?
Right.
But we do need to actually upgrade our system, because right now it's like entering Formula One race driving a Toyota Corolla. That's what our nervous systems are right now. That's why women. That's why women are burning out.
Yeah.
We have such a decline among women CEOs, right? At some point we broke the barrier to almost 5%. Hey.
Oh my gosh.
And then we had a backslide. Women are burning out everywhere. I don't have to tell you, right? Or our listeners, you know who you are. And part of it is not only that we have a lot on our plates, is that our nervous systems are literally constantly feeling unsafe, and we need to rewire them. We need to upgrade our vehicles to a proper race car or a rocket ship, whatever it is that you're desiring for your journey. But there are tools and methodologies to accomplish that.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I think that is really, really important and actionable. So let's just talk for a second about patriarchy in general, stress disorder, men. Have you gotten, and I suspect, sorry, fellas, especially white fellas out there, if you're listening, y'all are very sensitive. So are white women. White fragility is a real thing, folks. And that's a great book if you haven't read it, by Robin DiAngelo. Have you gotten pushback on people who are like, oh, you're just a liberal feminist man hater? Like, do you get any of that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I did in the beginning, and I imagine I will be going forward. Right now, I am in this very sweet phase of really talking to a lot of women who are loving my book, reading my book, digging my book, and giving the book to their male partners.
Nice.
And a lot of, yeah, and they are loving the book and digging the book and uncovering their own hidden traumas. One of the case studies I have in my book is actually a man, because as humans, based on that definition of trauma that we now know, it's any experience that made you feel unsafe, physically or emotionally, in your fullest authentic expression. And who here can raise their hand and say, well, I've never had that. Right? I've always felt accepted and loved and safe. Men have that too in spades, and patriarchy messes them up in ways that are different from the way it messes up women, but they're still drastic. And men also don't fit into the patriarchally endorsed ideal of the masculine. Most men don't.
Yeah. That's really valuable. That's really valuable. I actually just did a workshop, and I think, in fact, that the gentleman who said this to me listens to the show. So I'm not going to say your name, but you'll know it was you. We were talking about this very same concept, and how, men are taught not to ask for help, and they look weak, and the struggle of that, of we don't want to put ourselves forward because we're afraid of being knocked down because we're not manly enough. So they do feel that.
Yeah, it's so painful, and everybody needs healing at the end of the day. So when I say patriarchy, I do not mean men. And when I say men, I don't mean patriarchy.
Yeah.
There are a lot of men who don't want to be participating in the system. And just like with racism, if we are complacent, we don't speak about it, we are participating, even if we're not, quote unquote, racist, right? So again, becoming aware that, oh, wow, that this is operating, and making conscious choices to heal yourself so that we can support concurrently, we can support the healing in the world that needs to happen.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. Thank you for that. What has been, as you've gone through this process, your own breakdown, stress breakdown that led you to this, writing the book and now then supporting people on the other side of writing the book? What's been the biggest struggle for you?
The biggest struggle in writing the book and supporting people through this process?
However you, just through that, this whole process. Yeah.
The enormity of that.
Yeah.
The enormity. Every woman, just going to talk about women right now, but I also mean every human, right? In some way. So wherever you are on the gender spectrum, do know that I'm talking about humans. It's just the book talks about people who identify as women because that's been the experience of the feminine in the world.
Yeah.
So with that disclaimer, it runs so deep. So I've heard so many stories while working on the book. I've facilitated so many journeys of those breakthroughs and liberations that are, of course, ongoing and continuing.
Yeah.
And in my own journey, that work is daily. I use the tools that I teach in the book. I'm in the same process daily. And the thing is that the more we desire, the more we want to be fully expressed as humans.
Yeah.
The deeper we need to dive to unlock deeper layers of imprisonment. And the enormity can be overwhelming. So using the tools, again, start with that simple tool I give you on the website, the Repower tool. Maybe you already have some mind-body tools that you're using. And lots of self-care. And a community of people where you can talk about these things that are not going to look at you and say, well, what are you talking about? Isn't it time we just stop talking about patriarchy and playing a victim? Like, no, just having real conversations about, this is what I experience and having those feelings be validated.
Yeah.
So this is one of the biggest challenges that I hear from women is that their partners, without meaning that, but they invalidate them or their family because they just don't know. We're all in this water, swimming together. And unless you've come up for air, you've seen a different reality. It's like the Matrix, right? Blue pill, red pill. You've seen the Matrix. You're in the Matrix. You still don't see it. You can't validate somebody. So for me, creating this community that I do through teaching and speaking and running programs and retreats, I'm doing it as much for myself as I'm doing it for others because all our traumas are received in a community. So the corrective experiences, the healing experience also happens in the community. So that's my advice to everyone getting into this work. Be sensitive to your own needs as a human and recognize the enormity of that and know that you do have needs to be held and supported and validated. That's what we do as humans. We need each other for this work.
Yeah. We do need each other for this work. And I appreciate that. There's a whole slew of, wash your face and get over it. And I don't subscribe to that. I think it's important to acknowledge and feel and work through in an aware and authentic way versus just suck it up and deal with it.
Yeah. So I couldn't agree more. And there's a place for that. But we are just perpetuating the same culture that has repressed our own authentic beings for so long. We're supporting the same structures by repressing our own feelings, the full spectrum of our feelings that are true. They're valid. We don't want to dwell in them, but we don't want to dismiss them. So acknowledging them, having them validated for yourself, and then we can actually be empowered to heal and not just override things with platitudes.
Yeah, I love that. Empowered to heal and not just override things. Quote of the interview. I think that's fantastic. Does this work feel brave to you?
It's I was about to say it's the bravest thing I've done. It may not be the bravest thing I've done. I think
that's okay.
I think giving birth was braver.
So brave.
it is brave. It's just I have tools now that help me stand in my bravery, and it goes hand in hand, as you know, with vulnerability and
Absolutely. Yeah.
feeling fear, feeling vulnerable, feeling very exposed, and acknowledging that and feeling that and going deeper into deeper healing. So yeah, my bravery just feels different now. I used to just like I didn't have the tools, right? So feeling brave felt like, okay, I'm going to die, but I'm going to do it anyway. It's the last thing I do.
Yeah.
But now with the tools, it's just much gentler and more effective.
I value that a lot because one of the things that I do, and we do it if you're listening and you want to join us, we have a Facebook group called Brave on Purpose, and we do this every day in the group. So it's anybody's welcome. There are a million different ways to choose bravely every day. And we used to imagine bravery as this big thing that might kill me, but I'm going to try it anyway. Boy, is that scary. Sometimes for some folks, it's getting out of bed. For others, it's starting a business or getting a divorce or writing a book or, leaving the house, whatever, right? There are a million ways to choose bravely. And when we do that intentionally, when we're purposeful about it, we just make bigger choices, even in small ways. That awareness that you talked about to your action just puts it so much more intention behind it, and it's more powerful.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And thank you for the big work that you're doing. Every day you're leading this community. That's amazing. I'm going to join.
Thank you.
I'm going to see you in the Facebook group.
We would love to have you. We would love to have you there. We're doing that. That's one of the ways, and this is leading into my next question. That's one of the ways that I celebrate myself and my work is through helping others figure out what brave actually means for them and how to embody it. How do you celebrate success?
Oh, well, success and how I celebrate it are actually very similar. To me, success is feeling the way I want to feel.
Yeah.
And that in itself is a celebration. The embellishment on the celebration part is slowing down and realizing that, yes, I am feeling it and digesting the good, taking it up into my system so that it recalibrates me to take in even more good, right? That's part of what I teach and what I practice. And it's a brilliant question. And the question that I ask in the book is, how good can it get?
Yeah.
And to me, that goes hand in hand with experiencing success and celebrating success. That is an essential part of the journey of how good can it get.
Absolutely. Yeah. We both have some, you've taken it much further than I have, but training in positive psychology. And that whole idea of, regular psychology was going from terrible to zero. and it wasn't until like 20 years ago that people were like, wait a minute, maybe we can do better than zero.
Exactly. Freud, who is, of course, the father of psychology and actually still taught in graduate schools. I'm a survivor of 2 graduate schools in psychology. So.
I love how you say that. I'm a survivor of it.
Well, it's still very patriarchal, right?
Yeah.
And so Freud actually said that the purpose of psychoanalysis, but that was the precursor to modern day therapy, was to transform neurotic misery into common unhappiness.
Yeah, that's pathetic.
Common unhappiness has been the goal of therapy.
Yeah.
For all these years. And now we're like, wait a minute. Is that all?
We can do better than this, folks. We can do better.
Yeah, with the game of how good can it get, I
like
really
that.
Took that out of that stable. And gosh.
That's awesome. I love it. I appreciate the work you're doing. I really do. And it's a perspective that I think I have been looking at on a very micro level and lots of other people that I know. But to put this name on it and to say, it's this trauma is born within you. It's passed down from you, whether it is actual physical, and you use the example of the mice, which I think is true, but also just in the way we behave, and then the way we behave as parents and grandparents, and we condition each other. And if we want to change it, you just got to start changing it. You got to ask hard questions and have challenging conversations and awareness. I mean, that's what I teach all of my clients. What I want. Very first thing. First, we need to understand what the problems actually are. Then we can do something about changing them. So I love it. I'm so grateful that you're out there and you have such a fun, engaging way of presenting what can be a really heavy topic.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Heather. Thank you for inviting me for this chat today and having this opportunity to have a fun conversation. I hope our listeners
I think they
experience
will.
that well too. It is heavy, and humor is one of the weapons, or levity, right? One of the weapons to pierce through the appearances of things being just the status quo, right? The status quo of patriarchy, the status quo of buying into your own kind of thoughts and patterns. And it is so because I've always done it this way, right? So I think this is also where our work overlaps, becoming aware of the patterns that are not serving you and bringing a different view.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Before we lose you, though, what is your favorite charitable organization to support? I love this question.
Well, I'm not going anywhere. You're not losing me. Hope we'll stay connected beyond this.
Of course.
Social and other means. And Together Rising, I am fascinated with how they're disrupting the traditional charity model by using social engagement. And they're constantly curating new causes, and some of them are global and really big, and some of them are really local. It may be one particular family that's in crisis, and they just rally. It's like flash mobs, right? Virtual flash mobs.
Yeah, that's great.
And I appreciate them for always keeping me current on what's going on, and just giving the opportunity for my heart to also feel filled by participating in those causes. Sometimes they feel like, oh my gosh, like I can't do anything about this. But this is a little practice of giving that, to me, is very empowering. It reminds me, again, goes back to the work that we do, that we can participate and vote with our wallets. And
yes, we can.
Contribute to changing things in the world.
Yeah, that's awesome. So they'll be our charity of the week. We will give them lots of love, and we ask all of our listeners to give them lots of love, whatever that means for you. Time, social media shares, likes, money, whatever that means. Spread the word. We thank you for that. Valerie, will you give us your 3 words one last time?
Discovery, grace, and freedom.
Yeah, those are really fantastic words. I am a big fan of the word grace. And I'm not a religious person. I am a little spiritual, but I'm not religious. But the concept of giving ourselves grace, giving others grace, and grace to screw up and do better the next time, right? It doesn't mean faultless. So those are wonderful words. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
It was a lot of fun. So listeners, I want to encourage you to share with us what you think of this episode, what you want to see in future episodes. How are you choosing bravely? How are you aware? How is awareness changing your life? You can call us at 312-646-0205. And I look forward to hearing from you. I listen to all of those messages myself, and I will respond. So let's hear what you're up to. If you love the Brave Files and you love what we're doing, I invite you to join our Brave movement by supporting us on Patreon. Patreon is this great little platform that partners creatives with those who like to support creatives. And in producing a show like this takes a lot of time and a lot of work and a lot of money. And we need you on our team to keep doing this incredible work. You can visit us at patreon.com/bravefiles. Find a tier that works for you and join our Brave movement. It's been such a pleasure spending time with you today. I'm always honored that you're here and listening. I know you're out doing the hard work of bravery day in and day out. So I'll just remind you, this is Heather Vickery. Today and every day, go out and choose bravely. Hey friends, I want to share something really exciting with you. We already know you enjoy listening to podcasts because you're listening to this one, but I'm also betting you enjoy audiobooks. And hey, listen, if you don't already enjoy audiobooks, then it's time to check them out. That's why I'm really excited to share Libro.fm with you. They are an incredible new platform for listening to audiobooks. And by choosing Libro.fm over other audiobook services, you are supporting a local bookstore of your choice and investing in your local community. Libro.fm offers over 150,000 audiobooks via their primary platform, which, by the way, they built with love and from scratch because they're a small business also. They even offer bookseller recommendations for great audiobook options. You can sign up right now via www.vickeryandco.com/LibroFM. That's vickeryandco.com/LIBROFM. And when you do, you'll get one free audiobook of your choice, and the proceeds will go to your favorite local bookstore. Now, check what I just said there. You're going to get a free book, and the proceeds are still going to go to your local bookstore because Libro.fm makes sure that their booksellers get paid even when they give a promo to customers. I've listened to over 20 audiobooks this year alone. I especially love listening to memoirs read by the author, and it feels great knowing that all of my purchases support my local bookstore, The Book Table, in Oak Park, Illinois. Libro.fm. The same audiobooks, the same price, but a completely different story. Check them out right now at vickeryandco.com/LibroFM. You've been listening to The Brave Files, stories from people living courageously. To learn more about the show, find our show notes, or get some great bonus content, visit thebravefilespodcast.com. And we'd love to know what you think. You can give us a call at 312-646-0205. Let us know your thoughts on the episode, the show in general, or maybe share with us how you're out choosing bravely. This episode is brought to you by Vickery & Co. Success Coaching, coaching that helps you maintain a life well lived and a business well run. Learn more at vickeryandco.com. Our music is produced by Matt Lewis. Follow him on Instagram at mattmmusic or visit his website, theunionband.com. We couldn't do any of this without our extraordinary audio engineer, Andrew Olson. Learn more about him and check out his work at findandrewolson.com. And special thanks to our associate producer, Kim Statler. I'm your host and executive producer, Heather Vickery. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week.